Today we're talking through a 1970s high fashion car shoe. I fell in love with high fashion type commercials, and I saw this one that used a crash zoom, and I was like, I need to implement that into some sort of project. And so I connected with one of my model friends, Kelsey, also my friend Brandon, and we went in on this shoot together. For this, how can we get that vibe? So we live in Los Angeles, California. Venice or like the coast always looks pretty spot on. I did some scouting and I found this street in Venice that had all these trees just perfectly lined up, and I saw that at about sunset time that there would be beautiful light rays in certain parts of the street. So I was like, okay, we're gonna start there. And then there was this cute little pink building a few streets over, and I was like, perfect, those can be our two scenes and we can go from there. So I was like, let's do this crash zoom on her opening this door and timing it to her getting in, and then go into like this whole little sequence just that is tasteful. And so this was done on a 70-200 because I wanted this compressed look. And as I was tilting the camera down here, I was on a tripod, and at the same time I was zooming in. So it's not the same as a traditional crash zoom. With those, you have a parfocal lens where you can zoom in at any focal length and not lose focus. Here, we're relying on autofocus, but thankfully with modern cameras, autofocus is pretty stellar. This was shot on a Sony a7S III. And then we did that intro shot, and I wanted to end on her staring into the camera in direct sunlight, because I think about an hour to 2 hours before sunset, the sun on your skin is very nice, and it can give a soft look if done correctly. And so here, as you can see, we did just that, and her eyes really pop here. So I wanted her to do like the little tilt with her sunglasses, and she crushed that. I was always into like these very intense orchestral tracks because it aligns with high fashion a lot. So I found this one, and I just really loved the vibe of it because it starts very staccato and then goes into the main aspect of the song and just carries you through it. And that is also a thing with like another note on sound design is it's more minimal sound design when you choose tracks like this because the track is already overpowering everything. So that's where you would add in subtle sound design. I added some bird sounds here because we were looking at trees, and there's a world where you just have like a little nice ambience of environment going on around you. And then another thing I like to do with films that are outside is add a subtle wind blowing. To transition here, I wanted to go from this zoom into a close-up on her face of her getting into the car to have that continuity. So with these types of things, the biggest thing is to have continuity to each shot that leads into each different scene, and then you can end on a hero shot. You want to match that next sequential shot. So I had a far compressed shot here of her opening the door, and now naturally the next thing that would make sense in your head would be her getting in the car. And I wanted to do a different side shot to create that new scene and also have it to be compressed because I wanted her to be the focus here. The cool thing about storytelling, you don't have to show every single little thing because the audience and the viewer are intelligent, and we can know that the audience will understand that if the door is closed and you don't show that, oh, she must have closed the door, right? Because here we jump straight to a closed door shot, but her like looking around, getting ready to drive. And the cool thing here is that I don't actually ever show any driving, but you can just assume that when you go to this new location that you would have driven. Because here I didn't have a car mount or anything like that on me. We'll just jump to the new location and use her getting out of the car as that pseudo driving moment. And I really love top-down shots, so we just got creative here. With her sitting in the car, since she's not gonna drive it, I wanted to transition into like a lot of detail shots to give that intimate feeling of like you're there with her. I thought that would be a cool concept to have like a crane-like shot that goes all the way above. But of course I wouldn't be able to do that handheld, so we had a drone do that shot, kind of like a crane movement. Here I added post scale zoom, so I'm not actually moving the drone because that wouldn't be the most safe thing to do. So here's what the original clip looked like. Kind of uninteresting, right? That the idea is that you can scale in post and add your own movement. Little tricks of the trade. Here I didn't really love that the car was sideways and I wanted it to be top down. And so that's a rotation. So you would rotate the thing 90 degrees, right? So she's roughly there. But as you see, there's all this black space. So what I did is I scaled in until it fits it. And then you adjust the y-axis to have her in the middle of the frame. Completely new life to this shot. I do that in almost every one of these shots. So you'll see here, I have a scale, or you can do transform, but I have a scale of about 10 to 15 because I love the consistent motion of zooming in and then that. And a big tip is that you can just animate more and more in post. And as long as you see that vision, it should look pretty good. All in all, I wanted this to be about a 30-second film, and here I knew if this was going to be the halfway point, because 15 seconds at one location, 15 seconds at the other location, I was like, this could be a great transition point of her moving into that new location. And so I was like, now you're going to get out of the car and walk out of frame, and we'll get a few different angles of that. I had her get out of the car and showed her feet as a detail. I had her do that same action and got in a medium and a wide shot to show her upper right here, and you do a little walk. And then the next thing I wanted to do that's more unique is I took the 70 to 200, zoomed all the way in, and I just did a follow with her and watched her walk just like this. Beautiful, stunning car. And so you of course want to give it a slight moment in the film too to give those details off. We went to that new location. So we put the car in direct sunlight and had her lean up against the back of it, and then do the same thing, sequence of shots to set this new location. In here is all about the look and the feel and everything like that. So less is more here. And one thing that I've learned over time is less is always more. And paying attention to your composition, to the details, and even to like the textural elements is super important. The goal here was to create something that felt like moving images, so like a bunch of photos put together in a high fashion way. And I'm really happy with this one. And I think this is also a cool contrast to, if you haven't seen it yet, the boxing edit breakdown that I just recently did, where that was much more controlled lighting. I brought in a gaffer, I brought in different lights, I brought in haze. Here, we're all in the natural elements. So it was picking a place with trees and coverage to manipulate the light depending on the time of day. And for this one, I knew that this pastel-y building would be in direct sunlight during this time of day because I had driven past it at a similar time in our previous day when it was sunny out in similar conditions. And so that's like the thing with natural lighting. The timing of day and the angles that you shoot at are so critical, and it's so cool to just like be able to run around and do that sometimes instead of having that inset studio. I think there's a time and place for every one of those. Now let's jump into the color grading real fast. And here I used de-hancer. I want it to look very gold because of this very nice sunlight here. And I also, if you'll notice, added film grain, inhalation, and bloom. And that's something that you can add from programs like de-hancer. But also, I know there's other plugins out there that'll do it if you don't want to buy this, which you don't need to at all. The bloom just really brings out the softening of the skin there. And the halation, if you look at the edges of where her outline is, the red right there is just really poppy, and it really looks nice here. And of course the film. And then I did a manual color correction on each clip to make sure it tied together with that overall grade. And I think most importantly, like, just go out there and like create what you wish existed. And like with these types of projects, I want to get more fashion work, or you just want to do something for fun and you want to try something new. This is the type of thing that you should go out and do, and highly recommend dedicating some of your time to projects like this. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this. And you could have been doing anything and you chose to spend a few minutes with me.